Hello. This is a last-minute talk inspired by, the name is in my speaker notes, which I can't read, Sam? Yeah, Sam's talk on GraphQL. One of the questions was, how do you do authentication in Absinthe? So I thought I'd do a quick and easy primer on how to authenticate in Absinthe. The first way is don't. Do it like you would normally do it inside Phoenix, and that way you can have your normal status codes, everything else, because GraphQL doesn't have a transport, so it doesn't really have the concept of status codes. But for the sake of doing it the proper way, you need to put something into your context. The way to do this is you need to have a plug in front of your Absinthe plug. So this is the equivalent of a Phoenix pipeline, but it's done just with the generic plug builder. So I've stuck a plug called Authentication in front of my Absinthe plug, which is just forwarding to my schema. My authentication plug doesn't have to be very big. I realize that you can't possibly quite read this, so we'll just break it down into a few bits and pieces. You just got to make sure that normal plug stuff, like you've got the behavior and you know what a con is. You got to stick your init, all that stuff. And then when the plug is called, you need to do some logic to get your user from your con. So you'll have, maybe a header with an authorization key. In my case, I normally have a Jokin plug that sits in front of this to process JWTs. And then with the result of that, you want to put into the con into a private thing called Absinthe, and then just context and any map containing any values. So this was my authenticated case. I've got the user. And this is what I have done in the case of a malformed payload. So although you don't normally send status codes, I do. I just go 401, there's no user. And that then gets passed down to GraphQL. You can also, if you choose not to do a status code, you could just pass through like a null object, like guest or something. You don't have to have a 401. So in your schema, you've got this is a normal Absinthe schema. You've got a query with a field and a resolver. It's not important. In the resolver, the second argument in the normal /2 function signature is your context. In my case, I've got user back, and so I'm returning all the public information, and that's fine. I can also, if I've got no user or someone I don't like, I can give them an error, and that gives you a message. This is important because you can actually do authentication on parts of your schema. So someone who is a guest might be able to access your base layer, but you don't have to, but not your nested stuff. And because resolvers work individually, they will get the best of it and not the bit that's denied. It's kind of cool. But this also means that you have a nice and cheap, easy way during pattern matching to do authorization. No more do you have to go with roles and all that stuff. If you've got an object you can pattern match on inside your resolver, you can actually say, well, cool. So an admin can have all the secrets, the user can have all the public information, and everyone else knows they're going to get an error message saying no password, no data. That's all it is. Very quick primer. Thank you very much.